Hello, everyone. I'm from University of Glasgow, and my name is Lertchai Wasananikornkulchai. Actually, my surname have no special meaning because maybe my family just moved from China, and the Chinese people in Thailand prefer to name the surname very long to make it outstanding. That's it. Well, why valuing archives is important? For private funders, they may support our service due to the close relationship, but the government, as a primary funder, aims at the efficient allocation of resources or taxation, so they need some mechanism to measure the value. And we also experienced the threats of the government long time ago, like privatization, and the recent threat just with the reason that the reduction of the public debt, also known as cuts. Well, so this necessary to convey our value to the funder. And I captured this screen on the 30th, last month. He said that we can't fund NHS. So we need to ensure about the possibility of economic plan. And he tried to reduce inefficient and ineffective spending elsewhere, but I don't know where exactly. Anyway, it begins. So this is the very first study about economic valuation in archives. The reason for the study is saying that the main advantage of estimating the benefits of preservation in monetary terms is that this can be compared with the cost of preservation to determine whether any given project or policy is worthwhile, or indeed to choose among competing projects for the allocation of funds. So it means that we need to present our high value only to win the competition. The economists use the technique called contingent valuation, or CV. The procedure just that set up a question concerning willingness to pay or willingness to accept. Like, if you want to support our service, you may be willing to pay for our service. But for willingness to accept is just like when the government wants to close our service, how much you want the compensation from the government in exchange for the closure. Then the researcher will sample about 500 participants to ensure the reliability, and then multiply the average of the value by the size of the population. So in this way, contingent valuation can measure use value and non-use value. Actually, I think it's use value because it means future use or bequest value or existing value. But anyway, that's the economic definition. I'd like to raise two cases from the British Library and Bolton Archives. For the British Library, multi-proportions were used in the study, and the claim of the total benefits was about £500 million, and the benefit cost ratio equivalent to 5.1. In this account, non-use value accounted for about £400 million, or about 78% of total value. And non-use value was acquired by using the technique called willingness to pay. The average value, generated from about 700 participants, was multiplied by the UK population aged 16 and over. And that's the number of the population. Whereas the Bolton Archives The study purely employed contingent valuation without other approaches. And the claim of total benefit was about £280,000. The benefit cost ratio was 1.12. Use value was worth about £200,000 generated by about 9,000 users, and this is used the willingness to pay. For non-use value here, the researcher used the technique called willingness to accept and generate the value worth about £70,000. So, what we have seen, the size of the population is the key to increase the value, and famous institutions are eligible to include a wider group of population. So if we look back to the British Library, we can see that for non-use value, it accounts for about 78% of the total value. But for both archive, it's just 27% only for that non-use value. If the funder considers this a simple result, minor institutions would be forgotten, for they cannot display such high return. The economic variation shows that non-use value must be included to achieve a high return. However, non-use value is not sustainable. Why? Because the current government put the priority on the economic agenda, but non-use value is related to future use, which have little impact in the real economy. So this is not a sustainable approach to the economic value. So we would like to adhere to use value to ensure the worth of our existence. Additional limitation of contingent valuation. CV gives back only numbers, unreal, cannot be used for further improvement for our service. Like someone wears a chef uniform but cannot cook. So household income could limit willingness to pay as well. Low income area tends to yield a value smaller than high income area. I got this information from ONS, Office for National Statistics, and this shows the income of the UK according to the region. And this is the willingness to pay in the British Library report. We may see that this have a kind of pattern, right? So in this one, suppose we have two identical services located in London and one located in Glasgow. So we can show that one in Glasgow cannot win the funding because of we may have less value than one in London. But this is not because of the poor performance, but it depends on the particular financial or economic performance in particular area. And other attempts to claim the economic value. Yes, we have economic impact studying about the user spending. However, the small number of users result in small value accordingly. And we are trying to move to qualitative research. But however, the numerical result is required to correspond with the cost-benefit model anyway. Some scholars mention about purchase acquisitions or historic collections, and the price appraised by experts will change the status of archives from public goods to a market good. And some collections with an incredibly high price would be questioned by the public as well. Is that worth to pay or to acquire? And finally, I discovered archival economics. Revisiting archives would accumulate the return value perpetually. But however, the valuation is required now, so we can't wait that long. So what I do, I'm looking into other economic tools as they have been accepted by economists, because making our own metrics may be considered as a bias and cause difficulty in comparison. And investigating how the business sector deals with intangible assets, and hopefully to find a method that satisfies economists and favors our service as well. So these three persons play important role in my thesis. Sullivan, he argued that intellectual properties or innovation affects the sales of the product. It means that a research department may invent some innovation, and if that innovation can attach to a product and increase the sale volume, so that's the economic value outside from the research department, but it was justified by the market. Hubbard, he said that anything can be measured if the link to income is identified. And Atman, he proposed about commercial equivalent concept. This is from Atman article. You may see that in 2004, the Turkish bank archives generate so high return in economic context. This is because in that year, there's a kind of borrowing of the historic film and broadcast on the television. The value was calculated by the airtime fee. And that's why the value just incredibly high like that. So I'd like to propose this model. I mean, you may see there's two circles here. The inner circle is the traditional valuation we do about a decade, that user may offer the value through the willingness to pay to our institution. But however, according to the small number of users, the value cannot be high. I may try to propose that some user, especially professional user, may use our service to produce something, and that production will lead to final product and launch to the market. So that's where the impact occurs. The impact here means the consumption from a consumer or audience or anything else that willing to pay for the final product that produced by the user. And then, this is very important, the impact will pay back the user by generating income to them. This will ensure the sustainability as well, because when we need funding, the user also needs income as well. So here I will go to the input-output analysis. This method can answer to my model because it provides a top view of industry demand. And UK input-output measures the demands as a group of libraries, archives, museums, and other cultural activities. However, in that report, they mark our service just like non-market goods. So I'm not sure that they used what kind of method to measure the value. And the table from ONS is an inclusive summary, so we need to filter for archives value only. It can be done with the concept of regional input-output analysis, which focusing on a particular area and also shorten the range of the study as well. So, conclusion. Non-market variations not suitable for varying archives because the user number is small and consequently yielding a small number, a small value. And contingent variation offers only notional numbers with palpable limitations. True economic value of archives comes from the usage, and input-output study can reveal the value chain to other industries and markets where the economic impact of archives occur. So if anyone if anyone asks us about economic value, just ask them back to go to the market. Thank you.